I'm Samantha. Standing in my living room, I watched as the man I once loved, Ryan Thompson, turned pale as a ghost. Lauren, the other woman in his life, stood beside me, her eyes wide with shock. The room was filled with an eerie silence, and I knew that this was the moment of reckoning. It all started 2 years ago. I grew up in a small town where my parents, a hard-working schoolteacher and a kind-hearted mechanic, instilled in me values of honesty, loyalty, and trust. They were always there for each other, and I always hoped to find a love like theirs. I met Ryan at a friend's art exhibition. The gallery was filled with people, and conversations were a jumble of voices. Ryan approached me, and within minutes, he had me laughing. He was charming, with a smile that could light up a room. We started dating, and soon, our relationship became a routine of shared dinners, weekend getaways, and long-term plans. We had planned to meet at a fancy Italian restaurant downtown one Friday night. I arrived early, as I always did, and texted Ryan that I had secured a table by the window. He replied that he was running late, about 15 to 20 minutes. At 6:50, I excused myself to use the restroom. The restaurant had a strange layout, and as I walked down the hallway, I heard Ryan's voice. I stopped in my tracks. Ryan was in a private dining area with Lauren, a woman he had told me was just an old friend. I could see them through the gaps in the decorative partition. Lauren said, "Samantha is great, but don't you feel guilty about being with me?" My heart dropped like a stone. Ryan laughed, not nervously, but with confidence. Guilty? Why would I? She's so trusting, she'd never suspect a thing. I could cheat right in front of her, and she'd still believe me. Lauren laughed too, and there was no real judgment in her voice. Ryan continued, "Samantha is stable and reliable. She listens and plans. You're fun. Why choose when I don't have to?" I stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity. A cold, hard anger settled in my chest. I turned around, walked back to the entrance, and texted Ryan that I wasn't feeling well and had to cancel. Then I left the restaurant before he could see me. In my car, I sat there, gripping the steering wheel tightly. I could have confronted him right then and there, but I knew that would be an emotional outburst. Instead, I drove home and started to plan. That night, Ryan called at 8:30. He sounded concerned, asking how I was feeling. I told him I was fine, probably something I ate. He suggested rescheduling dinner and told me to rest. He said he loved me, and saying it back felt like swallowing shards of glass. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and began to dig into Ryan's social media. I scrolled through his Instagram, Facebook, old tags, and comments. Lauren appeared more often than I had realized. There were photos where she was just out of frame, inside jokes hidden in emojis, and check-ins that overlapped with the nights he had told me he was busy with work. By 2 a.m. My desktop was filled with screenshots. I had timestamps, patterns, and proof of his lies. I knew then that I couldn't let this go. Ryan thought my trust made me weak, but I was about to show him how wrong he was. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 8:12 a.m. It was Ryan, asking if I was feeling better. I stared at the screen for a long time. The man texting me with such concern was the same man who had laughed about cheating on me. I replied that I was a little better, just tired, and might take it easy that day. At noon, Ryan showed up at my apartment with coffee and pastries. He kissed my forehead and said he hated that I was sick the night before. As he spoke, I watched his face. There was not a hint of guilt in his eyes. He moved around my kitchen as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't shattered my world. I realized that if I confronted him now, he would lie. He would deny everything and make me feel like I was going crazy. I knew that I had to be patient and gather more evidence. That afternoon, we went to brunch. Ryan reached for my hand across the table, rubbing my knuckles. He asked if I wanted to talk about last night. I forced a small laugh and said it wasn't a big deal, I just felt gross. Later, we walked through a flower market. Ryan bought me a bouquet of red roses. As I held them, my mind kept replaying Ryan's words, "She's too trusting." The cruelty of it all wasn't just the cheating, but the contempt he had for me. That night, after Ryan left, I opened my laptop again. This time, I was looking at him through the lens of evidence. I found more and more proof of his affair with Lauren. There were photos of them together at a hotel 3 months ago, where Ryan had told me he was on a business trip. I knew I needed irrefutable proof. So, at 9:07 a.m. I called a private investigator, Miss Emily Davis. She didn't sound surprised when I told her why I was calling. She asked how long I thought the affair had been going on. I said I didn't know, I had just found out 2 nights ago. I told her I needed photos, timestamps, and to know exactly what Ryan had been doing and for how long. She quoted me a price, which was quite high, but my heart had already paid the real cost. I agreed to the service, and we scheduled a meeting for Monday. Over the weekend, Ryan acted as if nothing was wrong. He held me while we watched a movie, kissed me goodnight, and told me he loved me. But every time he touched me, I had to fight the urge to pull away. He had become a stranger to me. On Saturday night, Ryan fell asleep on my couch with his arm across my lap. His breathing was slow and peaceful, and I stared down at him, wondering how someone could sleep so well while lying to the person who loved them. Then my phone buzzed. It was Emily, confirming our Monday meeting. By Sunday night, I was exhausted from pretending. Ryan stood in my doorway, saying he loved me. I lied and said it back, forcing a smile. As soon as he left, my smile disappeared. I whispered to myself that I wasn't naive, and I never would be again. On Monday, I met Emily at a quiet cafe near my office. She showed me the photos. The first one was of Ryan and Lauren walking into a hotel. The timestamp was 3 months ago. The next photo was of them being intimate. Emily said this wasn't a one-time thing, it was a routine. Over the next 2 weeks, Emily documented everything. I watched as Ryan continued to lie to me, and I realized that he wasn't afraid of losing me, he was afraid of being exposed. So, I came up with a plan. I asked Ryan to come over on a Saturday morning to talk about us. He hesitated for a moment, then agreed. I also sent a message to Lauren from an anonymous account, saying that I thought we should talk about Ryan because he had told me she was his ex. She replied quickly, saying he had told her the same thing about me. When Ryan arrived at 10 a.m. and saw Lauren standing beside me, his face turned white. He asked what was going on. I calmly invited them both to sit down. I handed Lauren a folder filled with photos, dates, and screenshots. I told her I was sorry, that Ryan had told me she was history. Lauren's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. Ryan tried to get me to talk to him privately, but I refused. I told him he had lost the right to private conversations when he turned honesty into a joke. Lauren started to cry, saying she thought they were trying again. I looked at Ryan and told him he hadn't made a mistake, he had made a series of choices. I said I didn't want anything from him, I just wanted him to know that I wasn't naive. Lauren was shocked to learn that Ryan had called me predictable and too trusting. Ryan sank onto the couch, defeated. I picked up my bag and told him we were done. I asked him to pack his things, and I would leave them with the building manager. As I drove away, I didn't feel victorious. I felt a sense of relief because the truth was finally out. Ryan called me multiple times in the following days, but I didn't answer. I blocked his number after a while. Lauren texted me to thank me for telling her the truth. I replied that she deserved honesty. 2 weeks later, I ran into Ryan at the grocery store. He looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. He asked me for 5 minutes, but I kept walking. He said he was in therapy, trying to understand why he had done this. I told him I hoped it helped him. When he asked if I missed him, I was honest. I said I missed who I thought he was, but that person never existed. 2 months have passed since then. The apartment sometimes still echoes with memories, but it's a peaceful echo now. I still trust people, but I've learned that trust is a choice that can be revoked when it's abused. I've lost my tolerance for disrespect, but I haven't lost my ability to love. I want Ryan to remember me as the woman who wasn't naive, the woman who showed him the consequences of his actions.